Three words echoed across the chamber and froze the nation. Remove him now. In that instant, power cracked, order collapsed, and Britain watched something it had never seen before. A Prime Minister defying the Speaker, a chamber in chaos, and Nigel Farage standing perfectly still as the storm he triggered swallowed everything in its path. What happened next didn't just shock Parliament, it sent tremors through the entire country. It was supposed to be another routine day in Westminster. Prime Minister's questions, noise, shouting, rehearsed attacks, predictable defences. The public had seen it all before. But beneath the surface, pressure had been building for weeks. Polls tightening, anger rising, trust eroding. And at the centre of it all stood Keir Starmer, facing a chamber that no longer felt under his control. Nigel Farage rose slowly from his bench. No theatrics, no shouting, just quiet confidence. His voice was steady, almost restrained. He spoke about broken promises, about borders still breached, about families struggling while ministers argued over words, say, instead of results. Each sentence was clean and deliberate, landing hard without raising volume. This wasn't a rant, it was an accusation wrapped in calm. Starmer shifted in his seat, his expression tightened. The benches behind him stirred. Farage continued, pressing deeper, questioning leadership, credibility and honesty. He didn't insult, he didn't shout, he simply asked one question that cut through the chamber like a blade. If you're in control, he said, why does everything look like it's falling apart? That's when it happened. Before the Speaker could call him, Starmer stood up, not calmly, not carefully. He shot to his feet, face flushed, finger raised. His voice cracked as he spoke. The chamber went silent, not from respect, but from shock. This wasn't authority. This was anger spilling over. Words came fast, sharp, personal. Accusations replaced answers. Emotion replaced control. The Speaker intervened at once. Order. A clear command. Sit down. Address the chamber properly. For a moment, it looked like Starmer might comply. Then he spoke again, louder, sharper, defiant. He stepped forward as if the rules no longer applied to him. That was the moment everything changed. The Speaker's tone hardened. Ancient words followed. Standing order invoked. A rule so rarely used that many watching didn't even know it existed. The instruction was clear. The Prime Minister must leave the chamber. Gasps spread across the room. MPs stared at one another, stunned. Cameras zoomed in. Security moved forward. Starmer froze, disbelief written across his face. This wasn't part of the script. This wasn't supposed to happen to him. Not here, not like this. As he was escorted toward the exit, something remarkable happened. No one spoke, no one defended him. His own benches stayed silent, eyes dropped, heads turned away. Power, once unquestioned, drained from him step by step. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom was walked out of Parliament not as a leader, but as a man who had lost control. Then Farage stood again, no smile, no celebration, just calm. He spoke one sentence that would be replayed across the country within minutes. This is what happens, he said, when leaders can't answer the truth. That contrast was devastating. One man removed, the other composed. Within moments, social media ignited, clips spread, headlines exploded, commentators struggled to keep up. Was this a breakdown, a turning point, or the beginning of something far bigger? Because this wasn't just about one outburst, it was about authority shattering in real time, about a system pushed to its limits, and about a question Britain could no longer avoid. If a Prime Minister can be dragged out of Parliament, live on camera, what happens next? The aftermath was immediate and merciless. Within seconds of Keir Starmer disappearing behind the chamber doors, the clip began its unstoppable spread. Phones buzzed across Westminster, newsrooms switched to breaking banners, social feeds refreshed faster than anyone could track. Britain wasn't debating policy anymore. It was watching authority collapse in real time. Commentators replayed the footage again and again, slowing it down, analysing every gesture, every pause, every look of disbelief on Starmer's face as he was escorted out. The question wasn't what he said. It was why he lost control so completely. Outside Parliament, Nigel Farage didn't rush to the cameras. He waited, letting silence do the work. When he finally spoke, his words were measured, almost cold. He framed the moment not as victory, but as exposure. He said Britain had just witnessed the difference between leadership and insecurity, between answering questions and attacking the questioner. He didn't raise his voice, he didn't gloat. That restraint only sharpened the impact. Supporters praised his composure, critics struggled to land a punch. The contrast was too clear. By nightfall, the damage had deepened. Polling agencies scrambled emergency surveys. The numbers were brutal. Trust in Starmer plunged. Even voters who agreed with his politics described the scene as embarrassing, uncontrolled, dangerous. Focus groups used one word again and again: unstable. Radio phone-ins exploded with anger, disbelief and confusion. If he can't handle Parliament, one caller said, how can he handle the country? That question echoed everywhere. Inside Labour, panic took hold. Emergency meetings stretched late into the night. Senior figures reportedly clashed behind closed doors, some defending Starmer, others warning that the moment could define an entire government. Whispers of resignation began to circulate, first quietly, then openly. Allies urged him to speak, to explain, to regain control of the narrative. But Starmer stayed silent. No statement, no appearance, no apology. That silence became its own headline. Meanwhile, Farage's camp moved fast. Clips were edited side by side. Calm versus chaos. Control versus collapse. Reform UK's platforms surged with traffic. Donations spiked. Supporters framed the moment as proof that the political establishment was cracking under pressure. Rallies replayed the footage on giant screens, crowds reacting with disbelief and anger every time the Speaker's order was heard. The phrase "dragged out of Parliament" became a symbol, not just a description. International media weighed in next. Analysts questioned Britain's stability. Allies quietly asked whether the government could still command authority. The image of a Prime Minister being removed from his own chamber sent a message far beyond Westminster. This wasn't normal politics. This was a rupture. Days passed and the pressure only grew. Conservative figures demanded answers. Calls for a no-confidence vote grew louder. Legal experts debated whether Starmer's conduct breached ministerial standards. Constitutional scholars warned that the moment could reshape how power is viewed in Parliament forever. Through it all, Farage remained visible, controlled, always framing the event as inevitable rather than accidental. This wasn't a bad day, he said. It was the truth catching up. By the end of the week, one thing was undeniable. This was no longer a single incident. It was a turning point. Trust had fractured. Authority had slipped. And a man once seen as untouchable now stood at the centre of the biggest political crisis of his career. Britain wasn't asking whether the moment mattered anymore. It was asking whether the country could ever return to what came before.